Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of The Pulse, brought to you by America's Pulse Network. I'm your host, Damon from the Jersey Shore podcast tonight, and we have a lot to talk about. So, in a world where information moves faster than we can even process it, where every one of us is connected through cell phones, social media, internet, 24 hours news cycles, you would think that it'd be impossible to hide anything, let alone the decline of the most powerful man in the world. But what we just witnessed was the biggest cover up in United States presidential history. Joe Biden's physical and mental deterioration wasn't a Republican talking point. It wasn't a social media conspiracy. I mean, it was pretty obvious. It was visible, so it was real. Every American saw it. We watched him wander aimlessly on stages, lose his train of thought mid sentence, and you needed handlers to lead him away from microphones. This wasn't just political theater. This was a man unfit for office, propped up by the most coordinated, I'd say, corrupt network of Democrat operatives the country's ever seen. I mean, every elected Democrat, every high-ranking official in the Biden administration, and I'd say every media mouthpiece that covers for them, they all knew. They had to know. And instead of standing up for the American people, they gaslit us. They lied, they deflected, they mocked us, they manipulated. And there was nothing to see here, they said. He's fine, they told us. While the world watched the President of the United States, slip further and further into cognitive collapse. And now, after years of silence and denial, we're told Joe Biden has stage 4 prostate cancer, a cancer that takes years to reach that stage. And, and my heart does go out to the Biden family. It does. I don't wish that on anybody, but I'm just telling you what the facts are right now. So basically, it means that they knew. They just didn't tell us. They lied about his mental capacity. They hid the fact that the president of the United States was dying. So let that sink in for a moment. This wasn't just immoral. It wasn't just un-American. This was a dereliction of duty on a national scale. This was a massive national security crisis. So, I mean, personally, if I was China, and I saw the United States had no real commander in chief at the helm, I would have invaded Taiwan that week. I would have crippled our military and our economy because there was no leadership to stop me. And don't think for a second that our enemies weren't calculating that exact scenario. So basically, that begs the question: who was really running the country? Who was behind the curtain? Who was using the Biden auto pen to sign executive orders and blanket pardons? Who was giving directives while Biden was barely coherent on camera? So, I mean, in my mind, whoever it was, they should be in handcuffs today. What we witnessed was treason of the highest order. It left our nation vulnerable, I'd say militarily, economically, and spiritually. And the only reason we weren't attacked on every front is because our enemies feared the one man who's proven he can't be bought. That's Donald J. Trump. They knew Trump was coming back, and that threat kept the wolves at bay. And if that's true, then you also have to ask the next question: who was behind the 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump? You think it's a coincidence? You think it's unrelated? I don't. So now we have former FBI director, yes, the same FBI that covered for the Biden family's corruption, spelling out messages in the sand to assassinate Trump. We have the left inciting racial division by dehumanizing white farmers from South Africa seeking asylum the legal way, by the way, the legal way. If they weren't white and came here illegally and were looking for free stuff off the backs of hardworking Americans, Dems would probably love it. They would just have to update their disclaimer with the FEC and say this vote was paid for unwillingly by the U.S. taxpayers. And now we have Democrat senators gasping for any type of relevance, going toe-to-toe with Marco Rubio over issues that killed their party. So keep it up, Dems. This isn't just politics anymore. This is war. This is sedition. And it's happening in broad daylight. So this is Damon Galdo, and you're listening to The Pulse. So for tonight's show, I want to welcome our host and our guests. So our host tonight, we have Seth Eisenberg from the Conservative Corner. How you doing, Seth?
Doing good.
And our guest tonight, we have Elena Barbera from the Base Mother.
What's up, fellas?
Hello. And our other guest, we have Tim Faison Baker from, I don't know where he's from. He just shows up on our podcast somehow. I don't know where he comes from, but he's like guy on the couch from that movie Half Baked that just wakes up out of nowhere. You don't know where he came from, but he wakes up and he says something very intelligent and inspiring, and he's funny as hell. So welcome.
What? How'd I get here?
Yeah.
What's up, everybody?
So I want to take us to our first segment. So our first segment is nothing short of treason. So, and I pretty much explained that in the monologue. So before we get into it, let's just roll the part one of the audio tapes that they released on Friday, by the way, which we'll get into that later. I'm sure I'm going to turn to Elena right after this, and I'm sure she'll explain why they dropped it at a certain point and then what came out on Sunday. But let's play the first.
Where did you keep papers that related to those things that you were actively working on?
Well, I don't know. This is what, 2017, 18, that area?
Yes, sir.
Remember, in this time frame, my son is either been deployed or is dying.
So there's the one clip there. Elena, I'll turn it to you. So basically he was asked where he kept, the documents, and then he goes right into his son. And then later on in the audio, he can't remember when his son had passed. It's a sad situation. It really is. He's an old man. He shouldn't be there to begin with, but there's more at stake than that.
It's a sad situation, but it's sadder for the American people that we had this as our leader, who obviously we had no leader, and now we don't know who was ever running the country. But first of all, he says he doesn't know where the documents are. These are classified documents that are extremely important. I knew they were in his garage. How come he didn't know they were in his garage? His crackhead son, who was coming in and out with hookers, knew they were in his garage, but how come he didn't? That was first of all. Second of all, he says this is 2017-18. My son, Bo, was either deployed or sick, battling cancer. At that point, Bo had already been dead for 3 years. He died in 2015. It just goes to show the extent of this man's mental decline, that he didn't know where extremely important papers were kept, that he didn't know when his son died. He even confused that his son would be like when his son was deployed or sick and dying. I mean, those are extremely, extremely important things. I understand we all mix up dates, but somebody that's running the country should be sharp as a tack and should be way smarter than me. And if they're not, we're in big trouble.
No, I hear you there, but what? I mean, I understand, but he never forgot about Bo every time he visited one of the families who lost somebody. The very first thing he always said was, "I know what you're feeling. I lost my son too." No, but I'm sorry. No, you don't know what they're feeling. You lost your son a different way. You just got to sit by his hospital bed when he died. And a lot of those other parents didn't get to do that. And that was one thing that always turned me off about Biden. I mean, everything turned me off about Biden. And again, I wish this on nobody. No one should have cancer. I understand, but he shouldn't have been there. It was more detrimental to. I mean, there's way more on the line than anything else. So, I mean, Tim, what do you think about this?
The list of lies coming from the left and the whole Biden crime family is longer than Marco Rubio's ears. So I don't know if you've ever seen how long his ears are. So that's pretty long. But look, Biden, he's been wrong on every single thing ever since I was a little kid. Back in 87, he's running for president, 88, and then all of a sudden he gets busted with plagiarizing. So I don't have sympathy for him in terms of his political career and his legend, or his legacy. But I do feel for him if he's sick. And I'm going to say this, if he's sick, do we actually know? Because we didn't know by his apparent, DO doctor. So does he really have prostate cancer? We never will really know unless he passes away or we see somehow his medical records, which we probably won't. Is this part of the trick as well, where they're saying, okay, let's deflect and we say that Joe is sick so that we can blame his decline mentally on that, and then you're a jerk if you start attacking anything to do with his presidency. So yeah, I'll say it. Is it true that he is sick? I don't know, but he definitely has cognitive issues. And we need to know and uncover who was actually running that White House, because that auto pen was definitely being used a lot. And, does it go back to Obama? Did Obama push all of this to make it so that his legacy would be tarnished if it went through Biden, but not himself? That's what I think's going on. But, the media is definitely complicit in covering up this mess, and they're trying to find a way to get themselves out of this deep, deep mess that they made.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100% there. I see Alexandra Levine, who's not here tonight. I see her posting some stuff out there. She couldn't make it. She's our White House correspondent, but she's fired, so that's why she's not here. No, she's busy. She's probably like, "Oh my God, he just say that?" But no, she's busy with other stuff. That's our White House correspondent. So Alexandra, thank you for keep putting that stuff up there. I'm sure everybody misses you. So I would have went to you next, but I have to go to Seth. So Seth, what do you think about this? I mean, I would say number one, prostate cancer, it's a very slow moving thing. So, and it can be detected with, with a blood sample, even if it's stage 1, and very, very early. So it's either, I say there's 3 different scenarios, and you let me know what you think. It's either they chose not to test for it because they figured, okay, he's old enough already. Why do we need to know he's going to die of old age? Or they didn't want, I mean, seriously, that's a valid question. Or they tested for it and they found that he had it, and somehow he was being treated for it the whole time he was in office. And how the heck did they hide that? Being treated for cancer the whole time he was in office. Or they knew he had it and didn't treat him for it because they needed him to be president, the autopilot president. And did they tell him he had it? I mean, he did. Well, you'll see in the later clip too. Maybe he did know he had it, but or did they not treat him for it because they didn't want to get him out, because they needed to have him, as the president and use him to get their agenda across.
I think they knew he had it and didn't treat it. And I think he knew he had it. I mean, there's no way you don't know something's wrong. I mean, it's your body. If it's something that bad, there's something going on. So I think they knew and hid it, and he was in on it. And first off, like you've been saying, my mother passed because of cancer. My grandmother passed because of cancer. I don't wish this on anybody, and it was horrible. I was sad to hear it, and I'm just sad for him and his family. It's not going to be an easy road. It's going to be horrible. With that being said, this kind of exposes the Democrats for what they are, just slimy POSs that will do anything with anybody to stay in power. They'll put a sick, dying man on stage, prop him up, and use him like a puppet to maintain power. I have no respect for Democrats anymore, none. What little bit I had is gone. Whoever kept that man in office, knowing all this, should be arrested and charged with elder abuse and go to prison for the rest of their natural lives. It's disgusting. Does it excuse the bad decisions he made or the stupid calls he made? But there's also more than him that did this. There are people behind him who were just as responsible and just as guilty as he is for all the bullshit we had to deal with him there. So yeah, I think they knew, he knew, and they covered it up. And then it just got to the point where, like, look, we can't hide this anymore. This man is dying. He's actively dying now. We can't hide. Let's just come out and try to work the sympathy angle now and see if we get people to like it. I don't think they didn't know they kept us from knowing, is what I think happened.
Can I jump? May I for a second?
Yeah, jump in. Sure.
So yes, to most of what you said, Seth, except I will say, I don't think they came out with it because he was dying and they couldn't hide it anymore. I mean, he could have just died. Like, we knew he was on decline anyway. He was old. He could have just died. And they said, oh, he died in his sleep, and never let it come out at all. That would have been better for them. But what they did was, you had the her tapes come out one day, and then and they were already under pressure from that, because the entire Biden team is now being put under a microscope about what the hell, who was running the country, if that's who was behind the Oval Office desk. And then the very next day, they had the Jake Tapper's expose come out about the big scandalous expose on the big cover up of Biden's dementia. So they're getting squeezed from both sides. So they came out with this cancer news just as a distraction, as a sympathy ploy, and also as a defense, so that he doesn't have to testify in any investigations that go on in this upcoming scrutinization of the entire administration. So I really think that this was used as a PR tool more than anything. My initial gut reaction was, I don't even believe it's true. But like, I've gotten to move past that. I'm like, all right, well, it doesn't matter if it's true or not. They're saying it is, but there's no way they overlooked it. You're absolutely right, Seth, that they knew that this was going on for years.
And that makes it even more disgusting.
Disgusting.
That's horrible to do that to anybody, I mean, the man's dying rather than let him enjoy what he's got left. No, let's prop him up on stage and get done what we want to get done. Screw him. We want what we want. And if he dies in the process, who cares? No one will ever know. And now that they know, they're like, oh crap, everybody knows now.
Right.
That's
and they could have pulled him out and put Kamala in, but they didn't want that because Kamala, as bad as she was, she would have tried to have an opinion on things.
Yeah.
And so the puppeteers couldn't control her as easily as they could control, Weekend at Bernie's Biden.
I agree with that.
No, I agree. I agree as well. I mean, we have another clip. Let's roll another clip of the one that actually where he said that he had cancer.
That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up
We have
have
that one up
cancer.
here.
And why can't, for the longest time, Delaware had the highest cancer rate in the nation.
So there you go. He said he had cancer. Was that a slip? Was that just another thing that he was making up, just like with the corn pop or anybody else that he made up in the meantime? He said oil slicks from the windshield cause cancer. So who knows? Maybe a prostate cancer from oil slicks, or maybe the oil slick was coming out of his backside, and that's why he calls prostate cancer. I don't know.
And he's got the hair on his legs that he talked about. Hair. Yeah, I mean, I'll say on here, if there's a movie called Wag the Dog from back in the 90s that was based about the Clintons. So I've learned always with politics, it's not what they're telling you. You always have to look a little bit deeper. Yes, I agree with Elena. This came out as a PR piece, and they knew that someone has cancer. That's always a thing that you gotta be careful on what you say, because you don't want to be attacking somebody battling that horrible disease or that horrible issue. But at the same time, we might never really know what was going on in 2022, 2019, and 2024 and 25. So I don't have sympathy in the sense of, again, his legacy, but if he's battling it, yes, I do understand. But I will say my conspiracy thing about everything is there's a cancer vaccine that is coming out. Russia has announced it, and Trump has hinted at it with the AI stuff, and it's based off mRNA. I'll just put that out there. No president has ever really died from cancer except for Ulysses Grant, but that was in the 1800s. That's my little conspiracy thing for the night. Thank you.
All right. So yeah, like I said, I feel bad for a person, anyone that's dealing with cancer. I know other people that died of cancer and have it currently, their family members. So yeah, I don't wish it upon anybody. But at the same time, all sympathy goes out the window for his legacy, for anything. I mean, this country was almost, still close to it being ruined from his administration, from the lies that they peddled. I mean, it was over and over again. It would say, there's nothing to see here. He's running circles around us when everyone knew it. But the conspiracy has to go so high up. There's so many people involved in this even though people like us and regular normal people, they're like, yeah, they're full of shit. The guy's not with it. They're lying to us. Who's running the country? Everyone said it, but to have this all come out now and realize like what the ramifications could have been for all of this. I mean, we could have lost our country. We had a wide open border. You let the borders wide open. Anything could have happened. I mean, if China invades Taiwan, and really, I think Donald Trump coming back into the mix was probably the only reason why they didn't do it, which again begs the question, who tried to assassinate him 2 times? They tried to bankrupt him. They tried to put him in jail. They tried to kill him. They tried to do everything to get him out of the way. And when they couldn't, now they're dropping all this stuff. Oh, this is what happened. He had cancer. He has this. He has that. And now everyone's coming out to talk. So I say everybody like Jake Tapper and all that, like shove your book up your ass, because everybody already knew it. You shouldn't make $1 off it. I hope nobody buys it because it was there the whole time. He's telling you something that everyone already knew. So I don't know. I had enough of it. I'm hoping all the listeners had enough of it, and I hope everybody stands up and they call for answers for this, because we were in trouble as a country. I mean, we almost lost everything. Everyone that goes to work, everyone that has like skin in the game, has a family here that really cares about this country, cares about their family, cares about their community, cares about their state, cares about their country. I mean, that could have all been thrown out the window because the Democrats had one doddering old fool they propped up to get their agenda across. And whoever was running the country, I want to know. I want to know, is Obama tied to George Soros? Is the Clintons tied to Soros? I mean, I want to know who's running the United States of America. I know who's running it right now. I know that. I mean, that's a breath of fresh air.
I would say that whoever operated the auto pen was just like a soldier in the mafia breaking kneecaps. They were not the person who was running anything, because these people in power will insulate themselves with layers of people. So those people operating the auto pen, I expect to be driven off of cliffs or commit suicide or just to disappear into the ether any minute now.
Yeah, we'll probably see that.
Well, yeah.
Seth, what do you know? Probably, I see some behind the glasses there. Like you got some conspiracy coming.
No, I don't think it's a conspiracy. I just think it's Democrats being Democrats. I don't think when all of it comes out, no one's going to go, "Oh, that's shocking." We're going to be like, "Oh yeah, they're slimy. They're low class, low rent human beings doing low class, low rent things." It's not shocking.
So yeah, all right. Well, that's enough for that. Now we can talk about this until we're blue in the face. I'm sure we all have a lot to say about it, and we'll talk about it as the shows go further. Let's go on to our next segment. So our next segment right there is called "Whose Life Is It Anyway?" And there's a reason behind why I named this, because whose life really matters. That's what I want. Whose life matters? We'll talk about the South African refugees coming over legally because their lives were in danger, and the left and the media are all over it, saying because they're white, they came over. No, it's not. The main thing is they came over legally, and they were actually threatened, to come over here. So, but whose life is it anyway? I mean, is their life worth nothing? Or was Jocelyn Nagari's life worth nothing? Or Rachel Morin's or Laken Riley's worth nothing for illegals that killed them? I mean, what side are you on? Are you on America's side or not? So let's roll the first clip.
Alliance shoot to kill Yamaza, kill the poor, the farmer, kill the poor, the farmer. Brr, pa, pa, brr, pa, pa.
Tim, that looked like a lot of people wanting to kill the white farmer, didn't it?
It reminds me of a big festival like Coachella or something. Yeah, I mean, that song gets stuck in my head all the time too. Brr, pow. But when they talk about these things, and again, like I said, they direct you to look at certain things. We haven't been seeing this in our media for the longest time until someone like Elon and Trump brought it to the attention of us, and it's insane that people still attack and kill people based on the color of their skin, and it's happening. And it was so amazing to see President Trump today in the Oval Office with the president of South Africa when he said, "Oh, it's not happening," and Trump said, "Turn down the lights." And what did he do? Boom! He played that video. He played many other videos, and I have been posting that video for a couple months, saying, "Hey, look, it's happening. You don't believe me? I don't care if they're white or green or whatever. There are people that are being marginalized and killed simply for the color of their skin. The world knows it now." And seeing Tim Kaine being, in a meeting and talking about it, and I think it was Rubio that said right back to him, well, you have a problem because they're white? It's not that we are backing people because they're white. We're backing people because they're being persecuted. The left has a problem with it because it's 59 so-called white people from South Africa that are being here. And you know what? America stands to help those people, whether they're white, black, or anything else. But it doesn't fit the narrative that white people are bad and the Democrats need to take care of everybody else. So they're going to attack that 59 white people are coming here and say that it's only because they're white. America's too smart to see that, and they're not going to fall for that trap by the left.
Yeah, no, you are right about that for sure. America is too smart. At least most of them are anyway. So before I take the next person, let's roll the other clip that we were talking about in the White
Our
House.
own party
We are completely opposed to that. We, in 1955, adopted a document which said South Africa belongs to all who live in it.
But why wouldn't you arrest that man? That man said, kill the white farmers, kill the white farmers. And then he danced, and he's dancing, and it's kill the white farmers. I'm not sure, but I think if somebody got up in Parliament and started saying kill a certain group of people, he would be arrested very quickly. That man is going all over South Africa, and that's not a small party. That was a stadium that holds 100,000 people, and I hardly saw an empty seat. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of representation. And those crosses, we have dead white people, dead white farmers, mostly. And you take a look at Australia. They're being inundated, and we're being inundated with people that want to get out. And their farm is valueless. It's valueless. And they just want to get out with their life. And this is a very serious situation. And if we had a real news or real press or media, we don't have that because they won't talk about this because they're all guys like that idiot. But if we had a real press, it would be exposed. And you know, the beauty of exposing it is it's like a cleansing action. When it gets exposed, it'll get fixed. That's when it'll get fixed. But people don't talk about it. And I'll tell you who's talking about the thousands of people that are fleeing South Africa right now.
So there you go. I mean, it's you can't deny it. You have to talk about it. It's right there. Kill the Boer, kill the farmer. I mean, it's there. So what? So I'll take you, Seth. Why do you think that the Democrats are so? Why are they so stuck on the race baiting? Why are they so stuck on it? I mean, I know it's for votes. I know that's what it's for. It's definitely for votes because, like I said in the monologue, it's all about they got to change their for the FEC. This I remember I had to do it. This ad was paid for by so and so for Congress or whatever. So they gotta change that. This ad this vote was paid for by the American taxpayer because they just want to allow all these illegals in. It doesn't matter who they are, what they're capable of, what their background is. But then when other people want to come over, they always have to go if they don't fit their narrative of that they don't think they're going to vote Democrat when they come here, then all of a sudden it's a problem. Oh, they're white. That's why they're coming in. So, I mean, who knows? They could be Democrats. They might vote Democrat. Who cares? I mean, let them make their own decision when they come in here. But they're coming here, and most likely they're going to assimilate to the United States and our culture because they come from that background. They speak English already. It'll be easier. And which should be something that we should look at. People like that should get to the front of the line when you know their background and they're easier to assimilate into our culture. You can't just open the doors for everybody and that no one, people that live way different than we have. And I'm sorry that there are so many atrocities across the world, but we can't save everybody. Well, we can do what we can. So what do you think, Seth?
Again, I think it's just Democrats being Democrats. They don't like this country. They don't like white people. They don't like anybody that stands up against them. So you have a group of white people from an African nation. They must be the problem down there. It can't be the black people. It has to be the white people causing the problems because everybody knows white people are evil. All the white people, everybody an apology. We're oppressors and we're this and we're that. And then this group of white people come over who are just the opposite, makes them look like idiots. So they're not going to admit to that. They're not going to go, yeah, you know what? Maybe they're not as bad as we've been saying, because if they do that, they're going to lose votes because they've appealed to the lowest common denominator, and that's stupid sons of bitches. And there are plenty of them in the world. And the Democrats have identified with them and drugged them into their web. They can't back off. It's horrible, like Tim said, that we're going to base the value of someone's life based on their skin color. They're white, so they're not that important. They're Latinos, so they're more important. Or they're black, so they're more important. Doesn't matter. The innocent people are dying, and that's all anybody should matter. And if you've got an IQ above a flip-flop, that's what does matter. But if you're a Democrat, it doesn't. You're playing identity politics. You can't side with white people. You can't. They've been screaming and yelling as long as I can remember. White people are evil. White people are oppressors. So they can't admit that, hey, we might have been wrong about that. It's just disgusting to me. I don't care if they were black, like everyone's saying, or purple or green or had 4 arms. They're being murdered. We need to help them. And if you can't get past their skin color, that's for you. Get them out of there and help them. And if you don't like it, there's 2 things you can do about it: shut up or nothing. It's that simple. We're helping people, and that's the end of that story. There should be nothing beyond we're helping people prevent from being murdered because of their color. That's all that should be said. That's all that should matter.
You know, you oppressed the flip flop. Their
I know.
IQs.
Yeah,
I know. I'm an anti flip flop guy.
So, all right. So I'm sorry. I take a moment to take that one in. So Elena, I'll take it. I'll take it to you on this one. So what I mean, what do you think? How do we get over this? How do we stop this? Because the second that I would say, like a white person would say, this is wrong. You know, it doesn't. We could say it all we want. It doesn't matter if you're white, you're black, you're brown, you're whatever, and we could say it till we're blue in the face. That's another color. So we can say it as much as we want. But if you say, okay, it doesn't matter what color you are, you're still a racist. You shouldn't have to bring up color. Well, I didn't bring it up. You brought it up. You know, so how do we get past this point of this sharp? It's like the song that never ends.
How do we get past it? Wow, I feel like I should have gotten that question in advance so I could really think about it, because I don't know. I don't know. I can say, when Seth said before, they'll never be able to admit they were wrong. They don't even need to admit they were wrong. Just stop. Just put an end to the race baiting. The reason, when you asked earlier, why are they still doing it? I think they're still doing it because they believe that they're on the clock out on the Trump presidency, and they're going to get to keep this 10 million people of color illegals that they brought in. And so they're still trying to woo them as voters because they're convinced that they're going to be able to keep them, because they've lost a lot of Democrats. You can hear Democrats who have even a half a brain cell saying, I'm sick of identity politics. We don't like it anymore. I don't hate white people. I'm done. So there's that. And I would love to ask a Democrat a question, like, why do we need to save the whole world? If U.S. aid is so freaking great and all the billions that we poured into it are so effective and important, shouldn't the world be saved already? Why does everybody have to live here? None of it adds up. It's all about corruption and power and destroying this country. Everything leads to that, no matter what they do. It all points squarely to destroying America.
Oh, hell yeah. They hate us. They hate themselves.
I think the way to actually get through this is to screw off the Democrats. Doesn't matter. Do what America did in 1920 or 20-ish, where they stopped the migration that was really going on, and it gave time for the people that were here in America to assimilate to that culture. And if you remember, we're all about the same age, roughly. When we grew up, it was united we stand, divided we fall. And then it became, you know what? Diversity is the number one thing that is important. And what does that do? Yeah, there's some benefits to it, but it breaks down a lot of things. And if you look at what happened in the 90s with Eastern Europe, they balkanized people. And balkanizing is to put people in groups. And that's exactly what we do here. So I've always hated hyphenated Americans. You know what? You're American first. And if you want to identify something else, if you want to be American, Italian, okay, I get it. But when you say I'm African American or you're something else American, that's what causes division in this country. The thing that brings us all together is that we are Americans first. And if you just stop bringing in people and telling them you're victims and this and that, these people will end up assimilating and becoming Americans. And we will be the great melting pot that we used to talk about that we never hear anymore, because they don't want us to be a melting pot. They want us to be balkanized.
We're like a tossed salad now. Just everything.
That's a good point. You know, I was looking for that from our liaison of race relations, Elena, from our last episode. She did pretty well on that.
Well, you know what? Then I'm going to take this opportunity to say, the way that people were able to assimilate is because they had to work. They came here and they either lived on the street or they got themselves a job. So they had to learn how to speak English. They had to go into schools and pick up new skills. Where now, when you come here and you're given a house, and a bus pass and a phone and a doctor to see, and you're given clothing and spending money. Why do you need, you don't need out of necessity to learn anything about being American. It's just freebie. So it just kind of what I'm saying just is to add to Tim's point about being balkanized.
Yeah, in my county, and I live in Baltimore County, which is outside Baltimore in Maryland, we found out, we uncovered that each illegal that would come into our county was worth $53,000 that the county government was receiving. So of course the county's like, well, we can give the illegal 40 grand in benefits, pocket 13 grand or whatever they were doing. They were incentivized to bring illegals into this area. That's what's got to stop. The people pulling all the strings are the ones that are really harming us, and they're putting the illegals in bad situations as well. That's got to stop. And that's just one county. I'm sure if we went through every single place, the federal money that's being poured in, and probably through USAID as well, or USAID, I should say, because it's not aid, that money would be unbelievable. And that money should be going to Americans first.
Yeah, it should. I mean, I like the fact you say Americans first. That's what it should be about, America First movement. That's what everyone is looking at right now. That's the path that we're going down. And for whatever reason, well, we know the reason. The Democrats, they just keep standing in the way of progress. And that's a major issue. I mean, it really is. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it gets to a point to where you get frustrated, and it's like, I don't want to dislike anybody. I don't want to hate anybody. And I don't want anybody hating me. I would prefer them not to, but if they do, they do. That's their business. But when you keep like pushing a certain agenda over and over again and stuffing it down people's throats, it's like the same thing with the transgender stuff in schools, trying to push it on my kids. Now, if you want to do that, I want to hate you for it. Or if you want to push something agenda down and say, no, they're white people, they can't come over here because they're white from South Africa. Well, you know what? I don't care. I mean, they're seeking asylum, for a legal way, just like anybody else from Mexico seeking asylum, a legal way. That's fine. If drug cartels are going to kill your family because you're not muling 100 kilos of cocaine across the border, then yeah, come on over. We'll protect you. Sure, no problem. Doesn't matter to me. I'm just so tired of it. But it gets so frustrated, and it I don't know. It makes you want to hate somebody. You're like, who's doing this? I want to hate somebody for this right now.
That was a pretty specific amount you just mentioned there.
Oh yeah. Well,
you got us thirsty. We all had a drink. all those bananas that we were eating before.
Oh man. I know. Well, listen. Yeah, you can't, if you can't have fun doing it, then what's the point? But it's just common sense. I mean, I'm just tired of it. Let's just take our country back and get back to normalcy. That's all I want. I know it's all you guys want. And that's what a lot of people in this country are yearning for. They just want normalcy back. But the left and Democrats, they still won't allow it. And the media, and most of them, they pass the point of no return. And that's their problem. They don't know where to go. They're like, oh shit, this is where we're at. We got to just keep doubling down, and hope it sticks. But it's not going to. And that's the only kind of grace that I have. It's not going to stick. So, but all right. So we're getting our producers telling us we have 1 minute left. I hear you over there. So he's our minute Nazi. So he's going to yell at me after this, by the way. But yeah. So anyway, we're going to move on to our third segment after this. So let's move on to our third segment. And the third segment
Welcome
is
to America's Pulse Network.
Senate crisis.
This is APN's very own White House correspondent, Alexandra Levine.
Hello, everyone. This is Alexandra Levine with Alexandra Levine Live on the America's Pulse Network. You are all in with Alexandra Levine. We are still waiting for someone from the White House to come out and tell us what transpired between President Trump and Vladimir Putin on that call today. We are here live at the White House. We're waiting for White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt to come out and tell us about the updates of today, the call between President Trump and Vladimir Putin, what transpired in that call.
Subscribe and follow America's Pulse Network on the above social medias.
All right. So the Cuban Senate crisis is our third segment for tonight. So So there we go. I see it right there. Cuban Senate crisis. The reason why I call it that, I'm sure you guys know, Marco Rubio, he's from Cuba. And I love Marco Rubio. He doesn't take any bullshit. And, I'll say Seth and Tim, your favorite senator, Van Hollen, he kind of.
It's because we're from Maryland. It doesn't mean we identify as a Van Hollen supporter.
Yeah, I know. But so I mean, before we get into that, let's play the first clip. This is Van Hollen and Rubio with their first.
And I have to tell you directly and personally that I regret voting for you for Secretary of State. I yield back.
May I respond?
You may, sir.
Well, first of all, your regret for voting for me confirms I'm doing.
Bam.
Oh, it cut off. It said good job, actually. But yeah, it confirms he's doing a good job. Oh, yeah, the people don't hate you. You're doing a bad job, I guess. Especially that guy. That guy's a joke, Van Hollen. Everyone knows why. I don't need to get into it. But I'll take it to one of you Maryland guys. Who wants to stick up for your senator? I know you didn't vote for the guy. I'm just calling him your senator to beat him.
That's older.
We'll go with Seth. Come on, hit us with Seth. That's give it to us.
I'd first like to start off by saying I don't care for Van Hollen, and I firmly believe, and I will take it to my grave, that I think he inappropriately touches squirrels while he's in the park. I think I can't think of anybody I like less than that man. He does. I think he represents like two people in the state, maybe.
Who's voting for him?
Huh?
Who's voting for him?
Two people.
What kind of people are? I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm putting this guy in. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The people who vote for him are the same kind of people that molest squirrels and chipmunks. They're just degenerate human beings who don't know anything beyond 3 feet in front of their face. And he just goes, "Hey, vote for me." And they're like, "Hey, I'm going to vote for him." That's the depth of the thought involved with voting for him. It's like, oh, he told me to vote for him. I'm going to do it. And I always say this, and I say it when I had my own podcast going on. Democrats, Republicans having hearings is like verbal masturbation. It means nothing. Nothing ever comes of it. I'm going to make sure you lose your job, and I'm going to drag you into. Nothing ever happens. They all go to the Watergate Hotel and drink beers afterwards and laugh at all of us for buying into the bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So what we saw is more for them than anybody else. Nothing will ever happen. That's why I always say, if you're looking to fix things or fix problems, don't look to DC, look at your neighbor and get with them. That's where it's going to start. Van Hollen's an asshole. We need to get rid of him. Don't look for anybody helping in DC. We got to do it ourselves in Maryland and get him out. Rubio's right. If they don't like him, he's doing something correct. That is probably the most honest thing I've ever heard a politician say ever. If you don't like me, that means I'm doing my job. And he is. And his job, and I wish more politicians were like him, isn't to be in a popularity contest. It's to represent the majority of the people in this country, and that's exactly what he's doing. Is that going to upset some people? Yeah. But you know what? Suck it up, princess. That's how life is. You're not always going to get what you want. He's doing the right thing, and he needs to keep doing it. And I hope he does. I hope this is not just some smoke and mirrors crap they're doing for the cameras. I hope he sticks to his guns. Hope he doesn't back off. And I hope that Van Hollen dries up and blows away eventually. I'm so sick of Democrats. Like I said, they do low-class things because they're low-class people. They don't care about anything other than the next election cycle. That's it.
All right. So if any of you out there know of any squirrels or chipmunks getting molested, please go to peanutslaw.com. I know about Peanut the squirrel. So what's your take on this?
Well, to answer that question about who's voting for him, obviously they have to be people with lower IQs than of a flip-flop. So I got to be 89 or below. No, honestly, there are a lot of educated people in this state and across the country that still will vote for these leftist policies and these politicians just because they have a D next to their name. And they believe, and a lot of the Karens, these educated white women, they believe that their purpose on earth is to save the world. And they have to basically degrade other groups of people and by thinking that they're helping. And Van Hollen is one of those people that have bought into that. And look, Maryland right now is a lost cause. This state is just, it's a mess. And you get people like Van Hollen and Senator Angela also Brooks, who's had a ton of baggage in her past. There are two senators from this state, and they basically are lockstep with what the party tells them. And you'll see other people like Democrat Johnny Oshesky, who I kind of grew up with, who just lockstep. He goes in there and he says, I'm just going to do what I'm told, and I move my way up through the ranks. Maryland is one of those states that is so locked blue that it's falling apart, and they don't care because they think, well, the federal government will buy us out, and then the rest of the states will have to just bail us out. And it's not fair to the other states. It's not fair to people like myself and Seth that live here, and we got to deal with this. But Rubio is actually correct. And look, I used to really like Rubio, and then I was kind of, he's been very impressive as Secretary of State. And for him to say, really, I don't care if you don't like what I'm doing. That means I'm doing something right. That's why he's there. It's not because, he's not there. He's not there for talking points. Maybe he'll run for president. I don't know. But Van Hollen definitely is there for talking points. And in a state like Maryland, where when we grew up, and Seth and myself grew up, you had two senators that were there for 30 some years. It was Mikulski and Sarbanes.
Mm-hmm.
And this state has been a one-party state for so long, and it just breeds people like Van Hollen that go in there. And you know what? The good thing about it is that every time someone from this state goes national, they fail right away. And that includes Republicans like Larry Hogan, but Democrats also like the former governor Martin O'Malley, who was behind the whole failed Social Security thing there. So Maryland, I'm not necessarily proud of you politically. I love this state, but we got a lot to work on, and that's why Seth and I are here. We're going to fix it.
All right, I believe you wholeheartedly. But I want to throw another.
These are untrue, but I'll go through a few. First of all, I'm actually very proud of the work we've done with USAID. For example, I don't regret cutting $10 million for male circumcisions in Mozambique. I don't know how that makes us stronger and more prosperous as a nation. I don't regret psychosocial support services.
I raised Sudan, Mr. Secretary.
Can I respond, Mr. Senator?
Yeah, so he won't let him respond to that. So yeah, I think with USAID, I think that was a good cut there. So
no pun intended.
So that was cute. So Van Hollen had 7 minutes uninterrupted to speak, in which he went on and on, about how the Trump Doge cuts and the USAID cuts, that they, were starving people in Gaza, and that we're only taking the South Africans because they're white and all that, it just blah, 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 blah. So for Rubio to turn around and say, about the $10 million for circumcision, which makes no sense. I mean, these things, I can't even be real. These are, I wish they would come up with better fronts for their for their scams. I think that's why the Democrats are upset, because their sugar daddies are, the money flow is stopping. But one thing that Rubio says all the time, again and again, and I love him for it, I don't see how that serves the interests of America and the American people. Every time he is challenged, he says it's like the measuring stick that he uses to make decisions. Does this serve our national interests? And 9 out of 10 times when the Democrats are putting something forward, the answer is no. And I love Rubio for sticking to that gun.
Yeah, I do as well. Absolutely. So let's go to
in the case of El Salvador. Absolutely. We deported gang members, including the one you had a margarita with. And that guy is a human trafficker, and that guy is a gangbanger, and the evidence is going to be clear in the days to come.
Mr. Chairman,
who you went to
Senator,
I'm sorry,
please,
Mr.
Chairman.
Secretary Rubio has the floor.
Mr. Chairman, he can't make unsubstantiated comments like that.
Secretary Rubio has the floor. You
Secretary
had your time.
Rubio should take that testimony to the federal court of the United States, because he hasn't done it.
Somebody seems a little upset there.
Yeah, the margarita.
What? He said he can't testify. Yeah, Margaritaville. He sat there with a margarita with the guy. I mean, he should have went over there. If you want to be labeled as having a margarita, he said, "Oh, they emptied his glass a little." But no, they said they must have poured a little bit out of his glass when they delivered it. That was his statement, to make it look like he drank it. Okay, even if that was the case, your ass should have went over there to begin with to put yourself in that position. So sorry, no sympathy for you. That's where I'm at with that.
He's a punk.
So
You know what? Can I just say, like Van Hollen was mad about the margarita comment, not the fact that it was pointed out that he went and hung out with an MS-13 gang member. Like
Maryland dad.
That part's good. I'm fine. I'm fine being known as the guy that hangs out with rapists and murderers, but don't you accuse me of drinking a margarita? What?
I did not drink. I don't drink. I don't drink margaritas.
And you have Maryland.
But yeah, to your point, Elena, too. But like, how come they can't come up with a better name for these scams or these circumcisions or whatever that it was? No, like, why didn't they keep it see like to help the dying people of whatever, at least make it look legit. Like, I don't care about circumcising anybody. I'm sure they don't really care either. You're just going to be uncircumcised, and when you're peeing in a urinal next to your friend, and like, what is that?
A lot of people are uncircumcised. It's fine.
I remember the first time I saw one.
Seth knows what I'm talking about.
I'm Jewish. We're good.
Yeah. I got a couple of friends that aren't circumcised. I'm just like, just happened to take me. Whoa, what is that? So that's when I was in like maybe 5th grade. I didn't know it was in like that. But
OG.
But yeah, so we had to go there.
I got to say, Maryland, again, you got more negative Maryland news because you have that Maryland man, Kilmar Abreu, Garcia, whatever. It's like Maryland just can't get out of the negative stuff. Yet you have Rachel Marin, who was murdered here in Maryland, and you have a young lady with last name Nobles that's drawn. Tammy Nobles, I believe, was the mother in Maryland, or the daughter was in Maryland and was murdered by illegals. We just can't get out of the way. So any leftist who believes in your leftist ideology, look at Maryland, look at places like California too. It fails. It fails every single time. Working, producing people, even people that are retiring or whatever, we leave these states. And Maryland has so many workers have left, and it's because of these policies. You put illegals before us. You put all these social programs and social engineering. You force it upon us. We don't like it, and that's why we leave. Maryland is a failed state, and until we get some common sense in this state, it's going to continue that way. Get Van Hollen out of here. President Trump, please come to Maryland and help us.
It's right next door. I mean, why wouldn't he?
Well, it's close enough. I mean, why not? And well, Trump can't do everything. All right, so he can't do it all. He's only one man, and he's doing everything he can, I would say. But I mean, it's up to the listeners out there. Everyone that's listening to this right now, step up. Don't just get out there and vote. I mean, if you're in Maryland, don't just go and vote them out. Get involved. Join your committee. Run for something. Run for mayor of a small town. Start from the bottom up, and just don't lose your grassroots. In the meantime, that's why I believe. I'm sure you guys believe in term limits as well. I think the longer you're in office, then you could lose that. Look at Biden never had it to begin with, got in, but still, I mean, we need to get back to common sense. We need to get people involved, and that's the problem that Seth and I had this conversation before. That sometimes Republicans, Seth calls them lazy. I just say they're too busy. Because I know I am. I'm very busy. I've
tomato.
Yeah. So it could be laziness. It could be but we have to go the extra mile. But we have to. I mean, if you love this country,
very liberal Republicans in this state.
We fired you. What are you doing? I can't really.
Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Oh, there you go.
Surprise! I got out of work early. Busy working girl over here at the White House and so forth. But I've been listening to you guys. You guys are doing great. So continue. I don't want to interrupt with what you guys are talking about. And I'll jump in.
All right. Well, we only have like a minute left. So I guess I just wanted to end it on this. So Elena, bear with me. You got to roll with this with me, okay? We got 1 minute more. We got 1 minute. So roll with this. I just want to hear this. All right. So knock.
Who's there?
Banana.
Banana who? Who's there? Orange who?
Orange, you glad I didn't say banana?
Yes, I am. Now, if you didn't get that joke, you're going to have to go back and watch last week's episode, and then you'll get it.
Yes.
Well, I do want to say for the record, so last week's episode was amazing. I know we had 22,000 views just on Twitter alone, and that's in addition. There's more reposts, and we're on YouTube, we're on True Social, on Rumble. So we had a great show last week, guys. Keep it up, and you guys are doing phenomenally well. I've been retweeting and resharing in between my work tonight. So you guys are doing great. So proud of us. So proud of our network.
All right. Thank you, Alexandra. So, all right, everybody, thanks again for joining us. All the listeners out there, thank you for joining us live. We will be back next week, same time, 8 p.m. Wednesday. So make sure you tune in and get your pulse checked. That's what the doctor ordered. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Alexandra Levine Live, hosted by Alexandra Levine. Jersey Shore podcast, hosted by Damon Galdo. The Conservative Corner, hosted by Seth Eisenberg. Because the pulse of America beats for God and country, America's Pulse Network is for faith, family, freedom, and truth.